Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Cloud Masters. I'm Matan. I'm joined here by Rafael Marino. He's a CIO at Global Alumni, and I'm also joined by Marion Roussel. Hope I said that right, the French accent. She's VP Data at mscope. Now, we're here to interview them because, everyone's talking about Gen AI nowadays, and people are still in the talking phase or just in the POC phase, but these two there are two companies, both already deployed something to production. And so we wanted to better understand their journey and, any lessons learned that we can pass on to any other companies that are about to or thinking of deploying to production some Gen AI. We're also joined by Mehdi Nemlagi. I don't know if it's a Nemlagi or Nemlagi, but he is an AI ML specialist at DoiT. And he actually worked with both of these companies on helping them deploy their Gen AI workloads to production on AWS.
Hi, everyone.
Now, for some context for everyone, Global Alumni, they're an ed tech startup. They work with the world's top universities, helping them expand their programs and helping them improve the learning quality of their educational programs. And they use technology for this, of course. I believe they're working with MIT, University of Chicago, among other colleges. mscope, they use AI to help financing providers, institutional investors identify high growth market segments to invest in. So they help with deal origination, portfolio management. They're sort of like this blend of AI and microeconomics and finance. So joined here by Rafael and Marion. Maybe introduce Rafael first. Introduce your role and what your domain is, what you're focusing on in your role. And then we'll go to Marion next before we jump into our first questions.
Okay, thank you very much, Matan, for inviting us to this. I'm Rafael. I'm the CIO of Global Alumni. The I is for innovation, and I'm the director of the Department of Development and DevOps and all these kind of things, including generative AI. So thank you very much, Marion, for the introduction.
Yeah, hi Matan, I'm Marion. Thanks a lot for introducing us. I think you summarized it very well, in fact. So on my side, I'm leading the data department of mscope, and we are we are developing a product based on AI solutions, as you said, to identify high growth SMEs and high growth markets. In order that a financing provider can invest on them.
Just to kick things off, what prompted both of your companies to start exploring Gen AI? I mean, was it kind of like, we need to do this before competitors, get a head start on us? Or was it from the ground up, we already had this in mind? What was the motivation there?
On our side, Gen AI is an AI revolution, and we started to use it when OpenAI offered ChatGPT 3.5. We were really amazed on all the capabilities this kind of model could have. Everyone was speaking about it on the data science field, so we were like, okay, there is something to do about it, and we should invest time on how we could use this type of models. So first of all, we used it to increase our productivity, and then we tried to start working on some more technical use cases. On our side, it's easy because we are working with unstructured text data, which are web scraping information. So it was easy to explore some use cases.
Well, in our case, let's say we are not an early adopters right now when we are using generative AI. Of course, we've been since the first moment toying with it around, but until this moment that it has passed a year and maybe all the glitter all around was about the GPT and so on, we start looking what the rest of the people is doing and trying to find all the verticals and use cases that might be more interesting to have use of. Right now, we have several projects that we are working with generative AI. Mainly, we have two that they are inside, and another one that is focused on outside. One is translation, the other one is is a Q&A, and the other one is a proper teacher that we are working on. That is also something very interesting also, and we will have more information in the following conversation.
Jumping into the use cases, you're saying that we might eventually be taught by Gen AI teachers. Is that the use case you're exploring here, or
one of the use cases is that one? In more than being taught by generative AI, well, let's say it's a little bit complex, and also a little bit starting to be a little bit philosophical. Let's say, because what is going to be the teaching in the next 5-10 years? Who knows really? No. The most important thing about this is always when you teach to someone, is to make the teaching specific for the people who is a student. So you're going to get data, you're going to gather data, and of course this probably is going to be used by the generative AI, and is going to answer or make you questions or try to teach you in the best and more efficient way that the student can understand.
Marion, one, can you share what sometimes you have this initial use case in mind, and I don't know, and sometimes it can change the more you do discovery and brainstorming. Can you share what your use case is? What did we work with you on? And did that evolve over time? Were there any unexpected discoveries or changes in direction there?
Yeah. So first, I mean, on our goal is to cluster companies on good microsectors for the economy. So we are doing that based on web scraping information. And we when we had like a Gen AI model, I mean an LLM that's for text content, we really wanted to try this kind of model to cluster directly our companies. And I think this was a bit of an error, because the data that we were using were really noisy, and the results that we were having were pretty bad, mainly due to the noisy data that we have. So if you give some noisy data, then I mean we had multiple languages. It was not working well as also to be quite expensive, because of the volume of web scraping information that we have. So that's why we decided to hold this part, and we were like, okay, our problem is that we have like noisy data. So first, let's focus on how to clean our web scraping data information, and then we will do the clustering exercise. So we changed, in fact, our focus on having a cleaner web scraping information for each company to have a summary in English of what they are doing, and then with this information, the next goal is to cluster these companies with let's say, I mean, we'll have to check if Gen AI is the most appropriate for this exercise.
So you have to clean your inputs a bit before.
Yeah, exactly. So, and this worked pretty well.
And where were both of you at, like your teams with internal readiness? Like, was any upskilling needed when we started working with you? I understand, tools like Bedrock are fairly new. I think mscope. I think you guys are using. I don't know if you guys are using Bedrock, but SageMaker. But was there any upskilling needed? Any kind of where were you at? I guess with internal readiness, we'll start there.
Yeah. So on our side, firstly, we had to take some Coursera course about prompting. I mean, it's kind of maybe I would say. Easy to say, but it's not that easy to prompt first. So we needed to understand how to prompt, and also the prompting is different depending on the model that you're using. So clearly we had to upskill on this side. Also to understand the differences between the models, how to evaluate them. So that was also a challenge that we had, and depending on the use case, so one model can be better than another one, and and where to get this information. So we started to investigate on the Hugging Face website, the evaluation of the models, on some scientific papers, also to try to get insight on which kind of model should we use, and also on this side we had to learn a lot on how to, on which model we should select. And then I think the most, one of our big challenge was how to use these models. So once we know how to prompt easily, we know which model we want to evaluate. We want to evaluate for our POCs, but then how to how to call these models. And how to use them. And I guess here DoiT did a very great job with us to assess on which infrastructure, which architecture we should use, if we should use Bedrock, if we should use SageMaker Jumpstart, and really how to use them. We had no clues, of how to do it before, and clearly having a support clearly helped us a lot.
Raphael?
A little
Internal
bit to
readiness. Yeah.
Yes, a little bit to add, but yes, there was a certain points that I want to add is using Bedrock really is very fast to develop and to make POCs. That's very interesting that from that side. But of course, we need from bottom to top to understand everything, because when we started here in the company, all the companies have no idea how this was working. Also, adding about the prompt engineering and such kind of tools. Also, how to make a proper fine tune, or how to prepare correctly the data was another challenge. Also, how to make the correct embeddings to create a proper RAG. Also, how to set up all the infrastructure and all the architecture to make everything works. And that, of course, is a challenge, and is a lot of new stuff, a lot of new components, a lot of new concepts to understand.
Yeah, I'm learning just now, from interest to actually getting into production. There's like a million different things you at least need to have a decent knowledge of to get from beginning to end.
But I have to say on that, Matan, I'm quite a little bit buoyed here. My introduction to Gen AI is a little bit behind. I haven't really jumped on the bandwagon as quickly as everyone else has. But I'm hearing there's some online courses I can do with Coursera to do my prompt engineering stuff. So I'm a little bit happier about that now. I maybe haven't missed the bus yet. But
yeah, I still need to somehow prompt ChatGPT to help me with my Wordle. I mean, I guess now the world knows
they deliberately
I cheat.
disabled that to stop people cheating.
Yeah, now the world knows I cheat on Wordle sometimes. Marion mentioned picking the right foundational model for your use case, and then you need to figure out how to use that to your advantage. But I'm wondering, do you have any rules of thumb around selecting your foundational model? Like what situations warrants X model versus another? Is there any kind of like sizing or recommendations you can give in that regard?
Yeah, I'd be more than happy to answer, but I wanted to quickly jump on the on Sam's note just before. Actually, with a recent McKinsey study, a recent one on AI and ML, only 36% of the AI/ML projects move past beyond the POC, because organizations sometimes have a tendency to think of models as moving in a vacuum, not into an end-to-end system. Therefore, it's essential to evaluate each part of the life cycle, including evaluating a foundation model. So, how would we evaluate a foundation model with regard to its quality? It's a tough question, because a couple of years ago, when we looked at the AI/ML landscape, there were gold standards such as Glue and Superglue, and basically everyone from the research up to the practitioners would abide by these gold standards. Right now, the standards are a bit sparse at the very least. I think that you heard about the the MMLU metric, the massive. It's a data set, and it gives a metric about LLM's ability to multitask, to perform multitasking. Okay, it's a broad metric, but up to a certain extent, because this metric, you cannot reproduce it at home. It's very dangerous. It can basically inflame your computer. It's the very first thing you cannot. You need, if you have a metric, you need to reproduce it. And the second thing about MMLU is that it caused movements in the stock market, actually. So basically, if you remember a couple of months ago, when Gemini was released, it has provided a score on MMLU, and then Azure just answered back with GPT-4. Basically, they were all hacking this MMLU metric, and it didn't provide value to the actual practitioners. So my take about evaluating metrics is to first answer that there isn't one size fits all model. Second, that you need to think about your current task that you want to do, either entity extraction or summarization, and then you see the actual performance on your data set, on your own data set. You also need to take into account the language and what we call the context length. Basically, the length of the prompt and the length of the output, it differs. And of course, the cost of serving, of actually getting this into work. So these are basically the main items for evaluation. But I have some preference. For summarization, for instance, there is the very efficient BERT score, which is actually gold standard because it is evidence-based and not marketing-based, which is a totally different thing. So I hope it covers a bit.
Yeah, MMLU. That's a new acronym I need to store. Massive multitask language understanding. From what I understand, it's a vanity metric.
Indeed. Yeah, exactly. This is a vanity metric, and but it causes movements in the stock market. So basically, if you see a report, you can either buy or sell stocks, depending on that.
Back to a more comfortable area of non-technical question that's more comfortable for me, at least. Did these Gen AI projects or LLM projects that both your teams were pursuing, did that involve like new types of collaboration with maybe teams you weren't used to working with, or are you at a point in terms of size where you're just communicating with everyone regardless, kind of doing your Gen AI implementation?
Yeah, on our side, at the second one, we are a small and multidisciplinary team, and we are having a lot of interaction with each other.
And in our case, in our company, we are a big company. So apart from telling the people to turn off and restart the computer and change the headsets and everything, right now we are having a lot of interaction with the people, with the different teams working in the LLM side, because we are in our case, for example, all the data that the teacher, all the videos, that all the information that we are gathering, we need to ask to the department that we need it. We need all the translations, and all the stuff need to be in a format that we need to fit the LLM. So we are all around the company just moving around with this project.
Yeah, and that brings me to my next question about one, any challenges as far as integrating into your existing architecture this stuff, and any challenges related to data quality, accessibility, privacy. Privacy especially is a big topic. Raphael, we'll continue on the thought with you. And like, what were the top challenges?
Well, the top challenges, because right now, as I told you, we are speaking with different parts of the company, different people. So changing the way that they are working is a challenge. That is the first step, to make the things to make the way to the things to work for us. And also the next important challenge for us is the privacy. Okay, we have data that is very important data that's belonging to for teachers and everything. So everything has to be stored in a very, very safe way and cannot be any of we have to be very safe with that. We are very, very, very secure with that, with the decisions we make and where do we put and place that data.
Marion, I don't know if I guess it might. I don't know if privacy is the concern if you're web scraping, but maybe you had other challenges with your implementation.
Yeah, I mean, thinking long term, that's also, I mean, privacy is also a big concern on our side, because the web scraping case study is not the only one that we want to have. So definitely that's a concern, as well as the cost. So we have a lot of web scraping information, and the cost, if you run a lot of prompts, is also important. So that was one of our concern, as well as the standardization of the answers of our LLM model. So if you run the same prompt on many data, the answer, even if you're telling, okay, please give me the answer in English, give me the answer on the JSON format, sometimes, and you don't know why, it is giving you the answer on another language or on another formats, with another format. So we really had to spend time on the standardization part to ensure that our results could be used without losing any information. So that's one thing. And yeah, on the cost side, so even if we've seen that some models could be really useful for us and are good, we couldn't use them because of the cost issue, and we had to go with a smaller model that was also good for our use case, for example. On the privacy side, I mean, we also received quite a lot of help from DoiT on that side on, okay, what should we do? Should we use a private model within AWS and not with an API outside AWS, or should we go with an open source model within AWS to also control, in fact, what we are using, and yes, I think these were our main challenges, and yeah, that's not easy to answer them. That were not easy to answer them.
Can I jump on Marion's remark? It was very interesting remark. First, the structuring the output. First, of course, the accuracy of the output, and we can see that we can observe some startups actively working on how to standardize LLM outputs. Basically on how you can format in JSON and not getting wrong when you fill the JSON fields, and you can see nuances between the LLM providers. Basically, OpenAI models, you can outline the content in JSON, whereas Claude, Anthropic models might tend to have a preference on XML structure. So this is very mysterious. Every LLM has its own dialect. And with regard to the second point about privacy, I think that and this is what's very reassuring about the LLM families residing in either SageMaker or Bedrock, with a bit of caution, you can anonymize everything so that you won't get your data used by the model provider to fine-tune their model, and even on the LLM provider side, they won't get their prompt reverse engineered or any other system that they might have realized. So this is where it's a positive infrastructure feature that we have now.
Marion, we just did an episode on observability in Gen AI. Basically, when we deploy, LLM-based solutions. So I'm wondering, I assume that some measures were put in place to monitor, are we spitting out good answers? What is our definition of a good answer, and how do we check for if we're spitting out good answers to our end users?
I think this is a difficult question, in fact, to monitor well the answers. On our side, as of now, we are using Gen AI model to improve web scraping content quality. And this is leading to a better clusterization of companies. And our users are using the clusterization directly. They are not using the output that is coming from the Gen AI model. So it's kind of tricky to get a tracking on the Gen AI part directly. On the back, we have like some checks, for example, on the language. If we are asking the model to answer in English, and if it is answering in another language, so we are verifying the language of the answer to ensure that the answer is in English, for example. So we have a couple of little checks that we can do, but then the user is not seeing the Gen AI output directly, but directly the classification.
And Raphael, in your use case, are you in a situation where we're having to more closely monitor the outputs?
Yeah, well, always. We are also working in a matrix. As we are trying to make a teacher, we are looking for very precise answers and consistent answers. So right now we are working in a matrix where we have, for example, the retrieve first, the different retrieve methods, and also the generative part. So we are using different LLMs. So we are looking to two main points: the factual knowledge and the consistencies for the responses we have. It's a little bit subjective, but yes, we are working on that part to check and see which is the best combination, which provides the best and suitable answers.
I guess in education specifically, that's going to be a really big challenge because, as you said, it is subjective. What I find to be a best teaching method is different to what Matan finds to be the best. Much like attending a webinar is never as good as going to an ILT type session, right? So is there something that you've done specifically, or any creative ways you've come up to figure out what's best? Is there such thing as a best?
No, right now, which is the best? Right now we are moving inside the company. I'm not really about to say, okay, I like this one, I like the other one. Right now inside the company. So we are trying to compare, to see, and to try to find the most suitable, let's say. It's not going to be a best, probably. So I'm totally agree with that affirmation. But what closest to the best?
Very briefly jumping on that, emotions can be quantified to a certain extent, actually. We can trust the users, that the end users, and A/B test the models to see which is best in a certain context. This is basically what Netflix is doing when they are promoting recommendation systems. There isn't any recommendation set that is better than the other, but at the end of the day, the user judge it with either thumbs up or thumbs down, or clicking and even buying from ads. So there isn't an interesting best value. This is at the end of the day, this is the user who can decide, or the student in the case of a Global Alumni.
I mean, if they could bottle it, I'm sure that all of us, when we went to school or university, we always had a favorite teacher, right? And they had a specific method that connected with us. And if we could bottle that, then Raphael, you'd really have something, right?
Well, in any case, we can change always the behavior and the mood of the teacher. It's like something that is probably changed. So
yeah,
it's not going to be a big issue with that.
But I mean, even that comes down to an interesting discussion because I remember years ago reading that there was a company who was looking to improve the overall output of their workers, and they put more more lights on, or they increased the amount of light in the room by 10% or something like that, and the workers worked harder. And so then they put another 10%, and the workers went harder again. And they kept going until it had no impact. And so then they decreased the amount of light in the room, and the workers worked harder again. And it was actually all down to the fact that there was change. So maybe it's not about always finding the best, but having something different each time, a little bit of, being human almost, because it's that little bit of variation, a little bit of difference all the time that drives something different for us, and that makes us happier with whatever we're connecting to.
I have to say that I'm totally agree. Of course, this is new. So this is new for everything. So we need to test it. As an A/B test, like Mehdi is telling, is going to be totally suitable. But you need to test. You need to find
a lot of test cases.
A lot to say is to find whatever is working or not. Because who has right now the who knows what is going to be this? It's very difficult right now. So we are opening new paths. So it's like, okay, test it.
Yeah, and do either of you already have feedback loops built into what you've deployed?
Inside. Still inside. Everything we are working right now is inside company for the moment. We are looking to make it. So if we want to release a product, or we want to release a solution that we are completely confident that is something that is going to be useful, and it's gonna have likelihood, and it's gonna be cool. It's gonna something interesting, something fresh, something. We are looking for that.
Marion, I know they're not using like directly outputs, but they're using clusters of clusters of companies.
Companies, exactly. Yeah. So yes, on our side, on the front end, when the users are consuming these clusters of companies, they can rate the companies with a like or dislike functionality. So we can have like some feedback on either the clusters are the clusters well done or not.
Besides the thumbs up and thumbs down, do you have any way of, at least from Marion, maybe internally you also have these things you're measuring, Raphael, like measuring the impact that these changes had on your end users, whether it's improved decision-making, better investments, in your case, Marion, better user experience, other KPIs?
Yeah, so on our side, we know that it improves the volume of companies that we are clustering, all right? So it's improved by X% the number of companies, which is great for our users.
And Raphael, I guess maybe the question can be morphed. What are you looking for before deciding, okay, we're ready to push this out?
It's also subjective, but is that the people likes it. That the people likes it. I place the server there so the people can work and test it. And if the people is coming back and is keep asking things and is doing things that I'm not asking them to do, probably something that is cool and it's like, okay, we can make it this. But it's completely, for the moment, really is completely subjective, all these kind of things.
Marion, if you can share anything on this, I don't know what's a state secret or not. Where do you see your company going next with this beyond after clustering?
Yeah, so we used LLM model to improve the quality of our web scraping information, web scraping data. So we think that we have a first version, which is already good and into production, but we can still try to refine the first version and to extract more specific features from web scraping information that can help us to cluster better. And we also think that this information that we are the output of the existing solution that we have can help us to create a new classifier, a new cluster to cluster better our companies. So we have like two use cases. One is to extract specific features from web scraping information, and the other one is to try to cluster companies based on GenAI.
Mehdi, I think you mentioned something earlier before the call about, I think, foundational model selection.
Indeed. So, Marion and Raphael, I have the honor to accompany you, and you are mature in your GenAI projects, and this is amazing. But I would like to have your insights and take about the ecosystem of foundation models and LLMs more specifically, because we moved from a state where basically when the OpenAI momentum back in 22, where GPT 3.5 was amazing, but it was like an intern who was trying really hard to please with some approximation, to another ecosystem where we have centralized large language models that can handle very impressive tasks, accompanied by smaller, more specialized, sometimes private language models that are specialized at doing something very specific. For instance, sentiment classification can be very straightforward. You definitely don't need a billion parameter model. On the other hand, you have word embeddings that are quite compact and be really impressive on the retrieval side. So my point is, how do you keep testing and keeping up on the current research? Because the ecosystem, and I'm talking about 1.5 years. This is really impressive. I wanted to know what's how do you keep up on that? Because I subscribe to every newsletter. I try to keep discipline every morning to read some papers and stuff, and I'm still missing some new fancy robots flying on LinkedIn. It happened actually yesterday. I saw literally a robot flying over LinkedIn. So yeah, so I would like to take your take on basically the pace on the LLM side. Yeah, most assumptions are reversible plus those, so we can move on. Yeah, exactly. I agree.
And my point of view, well, answering Mehdi is like the first of all is listening and reading like people from you, like you know. I don't need to be in the cutting edge, testing all the models and everything. I'm just waiting. For example, in internet, there is plenty of information, not the cutting edge, just the people who is testing those models. You can see what they are reaching with that kind of models. You can see what they are going, what they are able to do, and you just need to read about that. Yes, I spend a lot of time reading the different experiments that the people are going around, even YouTube or Medium. doing. And after that, I choose which models to test. And of course, it's like Marion said, is test, and again test. And at the end, choose which one suits better for you. But it's the people like the cutting edge people like you, maybe like who is giving us the information to us. So
I also think yes. Just to add something is, okay, there are a lot of new fancy models that are released. The thing is, depending on the use case, you don't need like the newest model for your specific use case. So on our side, we really try. Okay, so now we want to do to revamp our clustering model. We are going with like some more basic models to get a benchmark, and then to try to like invest time on some more fancier models, but little by little. Some like not to go directly with the newest one, but just also to ensure that to ensure that our use case. Do my use case need this kind of newest model, or my use case maybe just need a model that is 2 or 3 years ago? I mean, do I need a very new model, or just one model that was released maybe 3 years back? Because I mean, at the end of the day, we don't. I mean, on business side, they don't care about using the newest model. They just want something that is working and that is giving business value.
Yeah, indeed. This is simple is better. Simple is better than perfect. I totally agree on that. It reminds me of an old tenant from more than a decade ago. I saw multiple comments, as I'm a bit of a dinosaur, where basically the best question to ask for an AI project, ML project, is, do you need ML at the first place? At the very first place, do you need ML? And you dig deeper, and you see that most of the time you might you might be attracted by the FOMO. I include myself into that. It's a very organic reflex, and I totally join both of you on the fact of maintaining an equilibrium between production and innovation and testing, always testing and having an iterative approach. Yes, good.
You know, besides trying out the new models, I think it was mentioned, or I think Mehdi, you mentioned to me offline. I think mscope, you're on Mistral on SageMaker. That's what you're using.
Exactly.
I think just in March 1st, I think they just announced it's available on Bedrock now. So now you have to make that decision whether to use that instead.
Change it on that.
Raphael, I believe your team is using Claude 2 on Bedrock.
Claude 2 and Claude on Bedrock. We are also testing Llama. So we are testing right now both of them.
So yeah, I think that's about it for me. I don't know, Sam or Mehdi, if you had any final questions.
I just had one very very quick question about this motto about AI is going to replace data-related people or whatever. I just wanted to have your take. Basically, this is more than an economics question rather than related to this. But I would like to have your take on this as practitioners. I believe basically it's a fear that's going to disappear with usage because people will be less and less afraid by this, and of course there will be new usages and new jobs that will be created, and basically who remember people who are building wooden shields, maybe for antiques. It's cool to have them in a cosplay, but this is the course of technology. I would be more than happy to take a brief take on this.
Yeah, sure. So of course, who was going to tell us when we started the career 15 years ago that right now we were in a podcast discussing about generative AI? You know, it's something that is unthinkable. So it's something that in the following next years, what are going to be the challenges the color and the flavor of the new problems that they are gonna be in the next 5 years when the generative AI is getting more powerful and more stronger. There are going to be a lot of new works. There are going to be a lot of new things, and probably yes, the works they are gonna change, but they are gonna create new works, and it's gonna be completely new. Every let's say every innovation has remove some things but bring a lot new things even, and it never's been about any innovation for the moment. It's been in a bad way all along the human history. So that's my point of view.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm sharing both point of views. In fact, what I think is Gen AI is really a revolution in the data science world, and more than in the data science world, in the world, because it can help us to do so many things. It's very powerful, and I think we should all embrace this kind of models and use them to be more productive and to be more efficient. Definitely. What I also think is that these kind of models can help us, but will not replace us. Some part of the work can be replaced, but not the full work, and some new type of task are created. For example, the prompting task. I mean, 2 years back there were not any prompting engineer, for example. So there are some new jobs that are coming. And one thing that I really think we should pay attention is like the bias that this kind of models can bring. Because depending on how they are trained, on the data they are trained, and how they are trained, the answer can be biased, and this can also lead to some maybe wrong decisions. So the humans should be careful on this aspect, and also the regulations should also come to have also like more transparencies on how the models are trained, and what are the kind of bias we should try to avoid.
Yeah, I agree. The degree of transparency is not optimal yet. Of course, with the training data, of course, with the with sometimes some harmful content that can be produced, and this can have actually real effects on elections or whatever event that is going to come. So we should count on this, whether we'd like it or not, but we should be thinking of transparency initiatives. I would like to mention 2 initiatives with that regard. First, on the security, the LLM OWASP top 10. OWASP has made very comprehensive document about the different risks involving LLM. I would like to make an analogy between each risk and the wider character. But actually, the LLM responded me that it could be harmful, so I stopped writing the blog post. And a second document is an LLM transparency model with multiple criteria, training data, etc. The openness of the model, it's an initiative that was taken by Hugging Face, which can help the users assess transparency of foundation models. I agree, that's it.
So, Mehdi, we'll grab the links for those off you and put them in the podcast resources so that people can click on those and have a look themselves without having to Google around for that. So thanks for those.
We're pretty much at time, but I really like this discussion. Thank you, Raphael, Marion, and Mehdi for joining. Hope for those listening, if you're thinking about taking that POC to production, or you're starting a POC and then taking that to production, hope you learned a thing or two from Marion and Raphael's experiences and what they said. And yeah, thanks for joining us. We'll see you in the next episode.
Thanks
everyone.
a lot, Matan, for the invitation.
Thank you very
It was really an interesting discussion.
Thank you very much for this opportunity. Thank you very much.
Our guests today were Rafael Marino, CIO at Global Alumni, and Marion Roussel, VP of Data at mscope. We were also joined by Mehdi Nimlagi, a staff cloud architect and AI machine learning expert with DoiT. Production and editing of Cloudmasters are handled by me, Kristen Stanback, multimedia content producer at DoiT. To hear more episodes and learn how DoiT helps cloud-driven organizations understand and harness the cloud to drive business growth, visit doit.com.